Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event.
Let's go.
Round one. Fight.
Thank you for tuning in to the Crypto Street Podcast. Here are your hosts, Killer Whale, Prince, and Crypto Dale.
And remember to tip your waitress.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 39, I believe, of Crypto Street Podcast. This is Crypto Dale coming to you from bumfuck Iowa, as always. Prince,
What's up, man?
what's shaking up in Canada land, my man?
Well, there's a time change. Kind of threw me off. Weather's not too bad, so can't complain, right? Just another day.
Another day, another dollar.
Yeah.
Killer, how are you doing, my man?
Doing well, dude. I went snowboarding for the first time this past weekend, which was very fun. Fell a lot on my butt, so I got a little bit of bruising there, but not too bad. Somebody's gonna make a joke about that, I'm sure, on the podcast or
Guarantee.
But yeah, I'm doing well. It was fun.
What, you made it out alive then, huh?
I did, yeah. Actually, we were gonna go for 2 days, yesterday and today. We're recording this on Sunday, but it was raining at the end of Saturday, so they closed it down on Sunday, unfortunately.
That sucks. Yeah. I didn't get shit done. This March Madness, teams were just announced, and I'm a big Duke fan, and they're actually going to be in could be potentially in Omaha. So I was looking at tickets a little bit ago, trying to decide which ones to buy just in case.
Oh, you gotta go.
It's like, do I want to spend the money and get the main floor seats?
You gotta do it. Treat yourself.
But if they don't go, I'm gonna be so pissed off.
Treat yourself.
I mean,
I don't know anything about sports.
So we're doing another noob episode, Noob 404, and tonight's guest is none other than the Brenna Sparks. So Brenna, thanks for being on.
Thank you for inviting me. You guys are so much
no
fun.
problem.
Yeah.
Let's just tell everyone how you got into crypto.
So I was 19 at the time. It was 2009. It was pretty much got into crypto for like Silk Road just to buy weed. I lived in a suburban part of Illinois. And actually, believe it or not, like I have a lot of friends that were into cryptocurrencies and they were just like pushing it on me. And that's how it all started, and pretty much that's how I got to cryptocurrency now. I just have a lot of friends, which are now my mentor. And they always suggest me a bunch of coins.
did you lose any crypto on Silk Road when it got taken down?
No, I did not. I didn't.
Okay,
I didn't even understand like Mt. Gox. Like to me, that was sketchy at that time. Yeah, I did sell at 1,000. I only had a few at that time. So back then, it was just like really sketchy. They had you could buy like Hitmans and you could buy a bunch of weed. I spent like 50 Bitcoins on some stupid blue dream.
Oh, brutal.
No.
I know. Yeah.
It's at least it's not as bad as the guy who spent 10,000 on a pizza.
Yeah. That's pretty ridiculous.
I maybe would prefer the pizza though.
Well, the blue dream and then the pizza, probably, right? In that order.
Yeah.
The whole combo going on.
Yeah. So what about you guys? How did you guys get into crypto?
I actually have a somewhat similar story. I was making an online purchase, I suppose you could say. And I had no idea really what crypto was. I bought a little bit of Bitcoin just to do the purchase. And I forgot I had it for like 6 months. And then I opened up my Coinbase app and I was like, oh, this is worth, I had like a little bit left over after the purchase. And I was like, oh, this is worth like double what it was. And so I was, just thinking, oh, this is probably a good thing to look into investment wise. And that it all kind of took off from there.
Yeah, I kind of didn't do the investment approach. I was just kind of just curious.
Yeah. See how it all works.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So for those people that maybe are just listening for the first time, we don't know what's wrong with you. But so how these noobs episodes works is Brenna's going to ask all of us guys some questions. And then we're going to try and answer mainly Prince and Killer because they're the experts. So Brenna, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay. So question number 1. what do you think are some of the biggest mistakes newbies should avoid when they get into crypto?
That's a good question.
Let you take this, Prince.
It could be a tough one at times, but I guess you don't want to follow, like if there's a big Twitter account and they're like, oh, I'm buying this, don't just FOMO into it with no idea why or what it is, right?
Pretty much just picking hype coins.
Yeah, don't just fall into the hype trap. At least do your own research, right? That gets just repeated like crazy. But yeah, don't fall into the hype. I think once we fall into the hype, we can be kind of blinded, right? So it's easy to just do stupid things when you're in this hype. So yeah, don't fall into the hype.
Okay.
I would say this is a big one. It's cliche, but don't keep your money on exchanges. I did it for a long time when I first got started out because it was more convenient. If I wanted to open up a trade, I could. If I wanted to do any kind of transaction, I could. But we see it all the time where these exchanges get hacked. And I would just say crypto is a place where there are a lot of really, really smart people here. I think, I don't know who it was, but they said crypto has the smartest scammers in the world. It might have been Not So Fast, a guest we previously had. And it's absolutely true. And a lot of it's like really technical computer stuff that's really hard to get a grasp on if you're not well versed in it. So I would say get a hardware wallet, either a Ledger or a Trezor, and make good use of that because, I mean, nobody ever thinks it's going to happen to them where an exchange gets hacked and they lose all their coins. But it does happen pretty frequently. And even like something like what happened with Binance a couple of days ago, where it wasn't necessarily a hack per se, but a bunch of people's API keys got phished. And I think the website was like basically Binance.com just with a couple of dots under a couple of letters. So it was really easy if you're like Googling Binance to fall for that and go, oh, that looks like Binance.com. I'm going to click that. So I would say buy a hardware wallet is for sure at the top of the list.
To kind of piggyback on Prince's, I'd say a little bit, maybe some patience. Learn how to have some patience and not chase pumps. Also realize too, to add to that is not chasing pumps is something else will pump. I can promise you that. So just have the patience. And if your initial investment is like me, and anytime you buy something, it goes down right away. Just sit tight and wait a little bit because, as long as it's a good project and you've done your research, that shit will pump eventually.
Yeah. And a lot of it's just market cycles too, just to, offshoot off of what Dale said is like, I mean, diversification is important, but we look at the market right now, it doesn't matter what you have. Everything is down. I mean, some things are down more than others, but correlations rise a lot when the market dumps. And that's true of stocks, bonds, and definitely crypto.
Okay. So question number 2, to have a chance at becoming a crypto millionaire, how much money do you think a person should start with to have a reasonable chance? I keep seeing people keep mentioning like, oh, they're going to get rich with $100 or $200.
I think that's a really tough one because it really depends on the person as well. Depends on that person's time horizon. I think what's the saying? The easiest way to make $1 million or have $1 million as a market is to start with 2 million.
Yeah.
Lose half of it and then, you got $1 million still. I think crypto has been a really nice opportunity for a lot of people where you can get in with lower amounts of money just because there's so much more potential because the market is very niche. So you don't have the big money isn't here yet. So yeah, you can kind of get away with like, I know a lot of guys who are doing extremely well for themselves and they, started with, no more than $1,000 or something, but it wasn't like it happened overnight. At the same time, this past year has been nuts and it's changed a lot of people's lives. But at the same time, a lot of these people have been going at it for, a few years still. And they really had to kind of go through some shit on their process to getting to those nice gains, right?
Yeah.
So
I think a few thousand is a good starting point, and you just multiply it by 10, and that's 300K.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I have kind of like some torn thoughts on this. I mean, I think it's very much true that the way you get rich is big concentrated bets, and the way you stay rich is diversification. Among a little bit of money in stocks, bonds, crypto, whatever. So I think it largely depends on how much risk you're willing to take. If you're willing to take a lot of risk and really, internalize and digest the fact that you might lose all your money and you make a big bet on something that happens to just fly up, then it doesn't take that much to make a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
But granted, that's a riskier thing. But I mean, it's hard because everyone preaches diversification, but I found that like if you're making good concentrated bets, then those can really pay off if you go more into them than most people would say is safe or good. A lot of people are going to say don't put more than 10% of your portfolio, for example, in one coin. But I think but the tough thing is a lot of people aren't good at picking, So I think if you have good people who you trust in the space and they maybe have something that they think is going to be a home run, then you're okay putting a lot of your capital into that. But again, it's very risky, so be careful. But I think if you're working from a small base of capital, that's maybe not a bad idea, is to make some big concentrated bets.
Yeah.
And it should always be noted, as I'm sure it's been pounded into people's heads, that you should never invest more than you're willing to lose.
Yep.
So,
although at the same time, I definitely invested more than I could afford to lose in the beginning, and it kind of worked out well. So it's hard. It's tough.
And I'm just as guilty at that too, because I put more in than I should lose. But it's easy for us to say that now, looking back. But it was a fucking stupid idea.
I mean,
to do that too.
My porn money goes into crypto.
There you go.
And Funko Pops. Okay, so next question. What are a few important things you look for when finding a new coin to invest in?
Good question.
So first thing I want to be looking at is the team behind it. Really, do your due diligence on the team, and then who is the advisors? Who do they got for advisors? You can find some teams and, maybe you don't know a whole lot about the team itself other than, their resume in a sense, their credentials. But then you hear about, you'll see some of the advisors and these advisors, they kind of have a history in the space. They do some really good things. So I think those are some things I like to look at.
You think advisors is the most important?
No, I don't. For me, it's tough to say there's one thing that is the most important. Maybe the most important is that it's not completely overvalued. Like we saw a lot of coins, even, what I'm going to say, Ripple at $3. That is
Ripple.
Yeah, Ripple at $3 is just ridiculous to me, right? So that probably would be something right there, even though they have a really good team and all that, I guess, on paper. I wouldn't really want to put money into that at $3 because it's just inflated as hell, right? So I think taking into account its price history, its action, what it's done, that's another really important thing. Fundamentals, looking at the supply, the total supply and all that. Because there's a lot of people that will fall into the trap of buying a coin just because it's cheap. And they'll think, oh, this is like 50 cents. I'm going to buy a bunch of this and then I'm going to be a millionaire in no time, like Bitcoin, which quite typically is very far from reality because it's like, say, Ripple, the supply is almost like billion coins or so. I'm not even sure exactly, but it's ridiculous. So even though the price is cheap, it's actually valued quite high because, it's such a large supply.
Yeah, I would second what Prince said regarding the team. I think that's super important. If you have a really good, well-established team where these guys have had success in prior projects and their names are out there, they have reputations to upkeep. So you're kind of banking on the fact that these people are successful and they want to still be viewed as somebody who's successful. So if a project has a really good team, I mean, your odds of like an exit scam or something where you lose all of your funds or your investment are way lower because these are a lot of people, people with good reputations. They've worked at legitimate companies. They want to, be impressive to their peers and not look like scammers. So that's the number one thing I would say. It's definitely a red flag if you have a crypto project where, people are scared to show their face if they're working on it. And with some things that's kind of true, like let's say Monero, where it doesn't really have like a very visible team, but it's still a really strong fundamental coin. So it's a balance, like Prince said, of a lot of different factors that kind of make this big puzzle, in terms of how good a coin is. But it's a lot of different things. But I think the team is a really good place to start.
I think that's important to just do research on their team. Yeah. Okay, this one is a fun question. If you were to write a show about cryptocurrencies, what would be the plot and scenario?
Oh, wow.
I have to think about this one.
Question. Yeah.
Jeez, I know. I have to.
So
And hey, I'm a piggyback on that, guys. Who would your main characters be too?
Well, definitely Dale.
Fuck yeah.
Definitely Dale. I don't know, Killer. Like, do you want to be in it too? I don't know. Like,
I'm down, dude.
you're down.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. We got a plot.
Okay, so I'm like a sucker for heist movies. So I think like some kind of like theft would be like very interesting and compelling. It would obviously suck for whoever got stolen from if it was based on a real story, but I think that would be really interesting.
Oh, okay.
I think if you would do like a story on Mount Gox,
Okay.
Turns out Dale
maybe
did
like
Cox. Ooh.
maybe maybe spruce it up a little bit and not necessarily have the entire true story about it, but make how they do that shit.
Yeah, I think either Mount Gox or, like you said, Silk Road would be fascinating.
That would be a good one. Too.
Yeah, and I mean,
they could even do some history around Bitfinex because they have had so much drama in their day. From what they had the $52 million hack back a few years, like in 2016, the summer, and then the whole Tether drama, and they're just a never-ending story of drama.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no shortage of storylines in crypto. It's always interesting, even when it's boring.
So I was thinking of like a story called like Crypto Millionaires, where kind of like $1 Million listing, and it's like they vlog about their life.
That would be a hilarious show because it would just be a bunch of pasty, bunch of pasty guys who just hanging out.
You really couldn't make a story out of just one trader because it would just be them sitting by their computer 24/7.
I know.
Yeah. Like I don't have a life.
Yes,
yeah.
I was at Legends Room one time, and there was a guy. He had a laptop. I don't want to say his name though, because he's pretty popular.
That's fine.
He had his laptop at the club. It was kind of weird.
I'm pretty sure I know who this is, by the way.
I think I do too.
Crypto Twitter
I'm
personality.
not gonna say it.
Okay, all right. I'm pretty sure it might. I almost want to say it right. Might rhyme with Mitt Mord, but I don't know.
That's who I'm guessing too.
Who that?
Yeah. Good way to play along.
It's dedication, right? Dedication. These markets never sleep.
Yeah, I
Markets
respect
never
that.
sleep. That's right.
Okay, next question. Have you ever wanted to start your own coin?
Oh, almost did a few times.
We may have. Yeah.
Actually, yeah. Like I think we have
You
actually,
may have.
but it hasn't really.
It technically
Why?
exists.
Okay.
Well, technically, it exists as a smart contract, I guess. It's not on any exchanges.
Pod token.
Yeah, pod token.
What is it?
So yeah, we
It's-
technically have an ERC20 token called Pod Token. It's related to our Telegram group, the Pod.
Mhm.
We had some like kind of grandiose ideas for it. I think we made it a few months ago.
Okay.
Maybe like 2 months ago. It seems like longer than that though, actually. But so we had some ideas like legitimate business ventures we were going to do with it, or like legitimate ways we could utilize the coin. But it's easier said than done. So technically it exists. I think we all have a decent amount of it. But
I'm a whale. Let's
yeah,
just
we're
say
pod
that.
token whales. So it's worth nothing, but
Has no exchange, no value. But we're
I
whales.
already have one called Dale Coin.
Oh,
and
God.
those fuckers, they will not like respond to me. I've been chirping at them on Twitter probably once a week for the last 2 months, and they
Do
don't
you think I
ever
should make-
respond.
You think I should make a Brenna coin?
Do it.
sure.
I was thinking like I feel like a bounty coin would be a really good way to hunt people down.
Like a Dog the Bounty Hunter coin.
There you go.
Doge the Bounty Hunter.
Doge
Like
the
I'll
bounty.
Doge
give
the
you,
bounty hunter.
I'll give you 20 ETH to find this person.
I like that.
See, I remember when I first got in, I really wanted to make a token, and I was like, "Oh yeah, we're going to just make like an index kind of thing out of this token." But then it never happened. I was going to do it with my brother, and he just got lazy, and I got lazy, and decided not to.
Okay, next question. Paper wallet or hardware wallet?
Hardware for me. I've tried to figure out these paper wallets, and I'm just a fucking dumb shit. So
Mhm.
Yeah, I say hardware.
it should probably be say more me being lazy than should try and figure out a paper
Yeah,
wallet.
here's the thing. Yeah, that's really the thing. I'll say hardware wallet, but it's not because like I necessarily think it's that much better. I don't really know much about paper wallets. I've never used one really before, so that's I can't really make a fair judgment on that.
Yeah. I think both are pretty secure, but a hardware wallet's going to be way more practical and support way more things in all likelihood. So I would go hardware wallet. I think your flexibility is higher with a hardware wallet than a paper wallet. Definitely hardware wallet.
What do you think, Brenna?
Well, I have a paper wallet, but I mean, I have fans that got me hardware wallets too. So yeah.
Did you get a Tracer or a Ledger?
I had both, so that's pretty cool. I mean, that's pretty cool that I've developed a crypto fan base, and I've had fans that are just like, "Oh, I want to get you this." Yeah,
That is awesome. Which one do you prefer? Have you used any of them or?
Let's see. I feel like hardware wallets are a little easier. Definitely a lot easier. Yeah. So, next question. What are the benefits of a startup looking for VCs or taking a loan instead of just doing an ICO? Right now, I don't know if you guys know, I'm CMO for a cybersecurity company. So I am actually working on a ICO. So
cool.
What do you guys think?
So ICOs are a little bit dicey, I would say, in one sense, just because the government's really taking a look at these things and starting to crack down on unauthorized ICOs. So I think that's one risk of doing an ICO versus a traditional seed round in venture capital where you raise a certain amount of money, or taking a business loan or something like that. A positive to an ICO is you're probably going to raise more money, to be honest. So I think it's kind of a balance between, if you do an ICO the right way, then you're covering all bases, and you're not going to get in trouble. Then you can definitely raise a lot of capital.
I just think it allows for a lot of ambitious companies just to get started, pretty much.
So yeah, I like ICOs just because I think it's been so awesome for the investors. Just the little guys, like this is where you have people who can come in and start with a really low amount of capital, get in on something that's maybe on the ground floor, and then if they are able to pick the right project, it can be really awesome, the returns for them. Unfortunately, it's starting to change the landscape, so it's not as easy to pull off an ICO anymore with the regulations in place. So it's really tough. Like for a business, like a startup, do they want to go the ICO route or like try and do a VC route? Well, as long as they have legal counsel, an ICO is probably still going to be easier for them to raise capital, just because anyone, typically it seems, as long as they do KYC, can invest in it, even if it doesn't matter if they're very smart or not, right? Maybe it's a bad project, it doesn't matter. They can still do it. So I think for a startup, that'll be their easiest way to get money, because VCs are pretty smart typically, and they're pretty extensive on their due diligence and stuff like that. So.
Okay, so another question. What do you guys think about crypto ATMs? Do you guys think they're useless, or?
Here, I'll answer. I'll start this one off. I live in the middle of nowhere, so I have never seen one.
Really? I've used them.
Really?
I mean,
actually,
there's one in about 2.5 hours away in a bigger city that I'll try and hit up maybe sometime, but I think they're kind of cool.
When I first got into crypto, I didn't want to deal with the Coinbase shit. So there is an ATM out where I'm at, and the fees were really cheap at the time. Now it's nearly impossible to get cheap fees. It's just stupid. And I don't really recommend using them just because of that. The fees can be so ridiculous. But back when I was like looking at it, the fees were so cheap, and it was like, all right, this is cool. So yeah, that's how I did it when I first got into it, was just ATMs.
So
really.
I've never used one. Prince, can you just kind of like give like a brief recap of how exactly they work? Like what the process is when you walk
Give us
in?
an introduction.
Yeah, it was pretty nice and easy when I last used it. Now it's been, like a year and a bit that I have used one, but so pretty much you go up, it's a touch screen. You just say you want to buy, you scan your wallet barcode, your QR code over the screen. It'll be scanning that. And then pretty much you'll just plug in your dollar bills, and it'll just count it up, add it up, and you can only really max out typically at a certain level. I think it's around like maybe $10,000 that you can put in at a time into these machines. And some of them I'm hearing now do KYC also at certain amounts, which when I was first using them, they didn't. So I don't know. Yeah, even that space is kind of changing. But
Where do you get the crypto? Like, do you enter an address to like store the crypto in, or how does that work?
yeah, so it scans. It'll have a scanner thing on the screen, and you just got to pull up your wallet's QR code on your phone, kind of thing.
Ah.
And you'll just put it to the screen. It'll scan it, and then boom, you're set.
Yeah, pretty lazy. So I just feel like, I don't know, they're useless
Ditto.
to me. Because, I mean, it's just easier
Yeah.
to just be in your bed.
I actually I had a friend who I needed to help out. She ran into a pretty crappy situation and needed some money, and it was like, to me it was like, oh, I don't have cash or anything. I got crypto. I'm like, do you want to have some Bitcoin? And she's like, well, and she needed to get flights out, and like, it was family stuff, and it was just really last minute. And so she's like, well, I can't really pay for flights with crypto. And so she ended up looking and finding some of these ATM machines and ended up withdrawing into cash from the ATM machines. And it worked out. So, there's a will, there's a way.
Okay.
But yeah.
So, next question. What are a few coins you guys are really looking forward to, and why, besides, Bitcoin and Ethereum?
It's a great question. For me, obviously, one is Lux, naturally.
No way.
I'm also
A lot of people
Pretty
can
big
mention
on,
it all the time.
also pretty big on Monero, AirSwap, UBQ. I'm trying to think what else is in my bag here. I like Komodo too.
I would second. I think AirSwap is crazy cheap right now. Granted, I've been hyping AirSwap for a while,
ridiculous.
and I am down gigantically on my position, like 80% on it. But I think, if you're looking for like a big home run at like a very, very cheap price, AirSwap is like a 30 million market cap right now, which is nothing in the space of crypto. It has a really good team behind it. Shout out Crypto Bobby, who just joined the squad actually a couple days ago. Really good guy, really good friend of the podcast. Check him out on YouTube.
Look it up.
But
Let me pull it up.
so AirSwap is a good one. Monero, I would second that for sure. I think Monero is one of the better long-term coins for sure.
Dude, AirSwap is ridiculously
Yeah.
low.
Like 20 cents right now. So yeah, AirSwap is a decentralized exchange for anybody who doesn't know.
One
Come on.
I'm looking out for. It's not actually trading yet. They haven't even done their ICO yet. They did an airdrop. Is Consensus AI, really cool looking project. So I think I don't want to get too much into explaining what it is, because that could just go on forever. But it's like a decentralized kind of governance system with some AI involved into it. It's super cool, and a wicked team. So that's one I'm looking forward to coming out. Still some time though.
Okay. So,
Brenna's looking it up on her phone.
writing
right now,
this
I can
down.
tell.
Let me.
I think they'll always have their place. I don't see them disappearing, but I do think we're going to see kind of a rise of decentralized exchanges as well. Obviously, decentralized exchanges have more work to do. They got more battles to deal with on their own. And to make one work it's going to be really impressive if they can pull one off that can actually have good volume, good liquidity. Because right now we got, a classic one is just Ether Delta.
Mhm.
And Ether Delta has been, I think it's really cool. It takes a
Okay.
little bit of time at first to figure it out, but I think once you get it, you're like, oh, this is sweet. But, there's a lot of rough edges, we'll say, with it.
Okay.
Large scale, it wouldn't be optimal. And so I think as well, big money, I think they like to have a face to an exchange.
Mhm.
If anything goes wrong, they want to be able to point a finger at somebody and say what went wrong. Why is my money, tied up or locked up or gone or something, right? They want to have a name and a face to it. So I think, they'll exist. They'll coexist. I think it's going to be a rise of the decentralized though.
This actually reminds me of something I was thinking with AirSwap, where AirSwap is a decentralized exchange. However, it's largely speculated that they're partnering with some big financial firms to provide liquidity to the exchange. So that's one of the big things that decentralized exchanges normally struggle with is liquidity. They don't really have enough volume to make it easy to trade there. So it's kind of this battle, I think, between decentralized exchanges wanting to appeal to people who, don't like centralized exchanges because they have to give too much information or whatever it is. But at the same time, they have all these big legitimate partners where, exactly like you were saying, Prince, these people want, they want accountability. They want names to put to the exchanges in case anything goes wrong. So it's kind of these competing ideas between autonomy and, maybe not giving up all your information, your social security number to Polo or something like that. And then on the flip side, these big institutional partners who are going to want to mandate that sort of stuff. So I don't know how that's going to play out, but it's something that kind of crossed my mind lately.
No, I was just like Googling it. You're smart. Okay. So just there's so many tutorials online, people are still showing you to simply buy a Bitcoin. Do you guys think it's concerning?
It's hard because I think it's easy to say in hindsight it was concerning at 20,000 when Bitcoin is at 20,000 and people are rushing into it. But I'd say it's a little bit concerning because a lot of people are going to get wrecked. But at the end of the day, you have to do your own research. Don't take advice purely from anybody. Definitely get a multitude of opinions, no matter almost what the coin is, or at least until you get a feel for the space. So it's a little bit concerning, but I think this is kind of like a larger thing in society. I think like people don't really take accountability for their actions in large part. So I think definitely do your own research, and that'll kind of take care of a lot of it.
Okay. So, do you guys have your favorite crypto traders?
Traders.
Obviously, these two guys here.
I don't really follow
Favorite
them.
traders.
I don't really follow them.
I think some accounts that I really like are PizPie, Nick Coates.
Here, let me look him up.
Correctly.
Let me look him up.
Yeah.
He will be on the pod by the end of the month.
Who?
Yeah, he's a really good trader.
PizPie.
Another one I really like is I Am Nomad. He always tells people they shouldn't be following him, but he's a hell of a trader too. Carp is a really good trader.
I don't know any of those guys.
Yeah. There's, I don't know.
But shout out.
It's tough because there's some guys who are really good, and I can't even name them all.
Another one I would add is Angelo. He's not that active on Twitter, like a true OG. His tag is Angelo BTC. Yeah, big time whale. He's definitely one of the best traders, I would say, in crypto. But it's tough because he doesn't really share that much. He kind of does his own thing. But he's got a cult-like following, so he's good. I would say another one is Ari Paul. Not really necessarily a trader per se. He definitely trades. He runs a crypto hedge fund. But I just think his thoughts on investing and crypto in general are some of the most prescient, sort of relevant thoughts. And he makes it pretty easy to understand why crypto has this big value proposition, which is really tough to explain to people when they first get started. They go, oh, I've heard a lot about this, but is it really useful? Or what's the point of it? Or what's kind of a way to value it? And he's helped me just kind of rationalize and kind of organize a lot of these thoughts in my head relating to what crypto should be worth, the purpose it serves in the world. So I would say definitely follow Ari Paul if you don't follow him on Twitter already.
Yeah, a couple of mine are Messiah, Crypto Messiah.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's good. Donnie, Sicarius, Startail,
Cobain, Crypto Path.
Good.
There's so many. There's a lot of really, really good traders, and I wouldn't even be able to name them all here just because I'm not going to remember them all, but. There's a lot of really good traders, and they all have their own styles. Yeah, they're all unique traders in their own right. So
yeah, that's another thing. A lot of people are good at different things. Like if you take a look at Carpe Noctam, having his analysis of Ichimoku clouds and how to trade using Ichimoku is probably the best you can find on Twitter, YouTube, whatever it may be. So really valuable resource for that. If you're looking more for fundamental, you might look at somebody else. I think Ari Paul is amazing for that kind of stuff. So it really, again, it's sort of what we talked about when looking at a project. You want to take the opinions of all these different people and combine them and then kind of form your opinion from that mosaic of opinions. You don't just want to follow blindly in terms of what one person says.
Okay. So next question. Assuming cryptocurrency is here to stay, how do you think cryptocurrencies will compare?
Good question. I think it'll look a lot more like the stock market in terms of regulation is definitely going to be a part. Liquidity is going to rise, meaning more capital will be in the space, meaning it's easier to trade for the average person. I think accessibility is going to be one of those things that is really important going forward. So crypto is still a really tough thing to understand. I mean, we're all pretty computer savvy, but even operating something like my Ether wallet or my crypto or whatever it's called now, that can be kind of confusing. If you just have like a basic level of computer knowledge, but you don't really know a lot about smart contracts. And so I think making that stuff easier for the average person is going to be super important. I mean, Coinbase is like the shining example of a crypto exchange that's really user friendly right now. So I think that sort of interface where it's just kind of intuitive and you know what to do, that sort of stuff transferred over to other coins, other projects, and doing other things like storing it on a hardware wallet. Once that stuff gets easier, that's going to be really important for the adoption of crypto. So I think if you look 10 years from now, not only is it going to be way bigger with way more capital, but it's going to be way easier to use, which is really going to make it bigger than it is now.
Yeah, I had someone trying to teach me how to make a smart contract, and I wanted to kill myself. But yeah, like, why would I want to give ownership of my company?
Yeah, sure.
Very true.
Okay, last question.
Couple more, Brenna. So pick the good ones.
Okay. As cryptocurrency progresses, do you think older people in their 40s or 50s will have a harder time accepting and adapting to it? Apparently, I read in Korea, it's not,
I think it's just going to be a classic case.
Koreans love that shit.
Yeah, in some areas, they're a little more tech savvy. I think, if we want to look back, even just talking to my parents, they're like, back in the internet, when it was first coming out, it was like, who the hell needs the internet? What the hell do I want an email for? Like, this is dumb. I don't want to use this. And then, a lot of them are like, I don't know how to use this. This is so confusing. But then, it just becomes more normal and, they just evolve, right? I think that's kind of just a human tendency. We just evolve over time. Right?
Yeah, I think it's largely going to depend on how much easier it gets to use. I'll use my dad as an example. My dad is 60, and I've kind of been showing him the ropes in crypto, telling him about it. He has some coins. But the thing is, it's a lot of this stuff is just really hard for people to kind of not get a grasp on, but feel comfortable with. Like, I'll use an example of my dad using Coinbase, and then I told him to get a hardware wallet. And when he was setting the hardware wallet up, he's like, so wait a minute, if I put this on the hardware wallet, it's not going to be on Coinbase anymore, right? And I was like, nope, it'll be on your hardware wallet. And he's like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't feel comfortable with that. And meanwhile, I'm telling him, like, I have a hardware wallet. I've done it. Like, it's going to be fine. It's actually a safer, better option. But even with that, and I'm his son, and so even with that in mind, he still didn't feel comfortable enough to move his stuff off of Coinbase just because Coinbase is so user-friendly. And so it's going to take a while for older folks, I think, to really get the hang of this stuff just because it's so foreign, it's so complicated. But I think, again, that goes hand in hand with everything getting easier to use. So as everything gets easier to use, more and more older folks will get on board and start piling some real money into this.
Yeah, they probably just don't understand that, like, the steps it takes to actually move your money is, like, the extra steps is actually safer,
Yes, absolutely.
I'm done with my questions.
All right, perfect. Well, I guess you two guys have any parting words for the evening?
Just thank you. Really good questions.
Yeah,
a lot that really made me think.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brenna.
So much fun.
Everyone out there, thanks for listening. Brenna, again, thanks for being on.
Mwah.
Take care. Peace out. Tip your waitress. See ya.